Good morning. I'm Alex Mindall, and I lead on how DFT can better work with our ALBs, agencies, and local authorities to use AI to better deliver our services to the public and drive efficiency in our transport spend. Um, Unlike the policy update that you see in this presentation, we'll delve a bit into what AI is, some of the broader government context around AI, and some of the barriers to adoption of AI. I'll also spotlight a couple of interventions specifically for this kind of TTF audience. Um, and without further ado, we'll go into some of the broader context and the wider government narrative around AI at the moment. So I'll start on the right here with this line graph. So this visually represents productivity from 1971 to 2022. And you'll see the solid black line indicates outputs per hour worked, while the dashed red line shows the trend from 1971 to 2007. And the thing that you'll notice on this graph is the steep drop off after 2007 and the financial crash in the growth of our productivity. And this crash can be attributed to a number of factors, including underinvestment in physical capital and our workforce skills. And it's one of the main drivers of the current government, of our missions around driving economic growth. And it's a really big reason for why the government is so interested in AI and technology in order to drive this productivity and economic growth in the UK. And then a little bit about some of the key publications that we've had over the last few months. So all three of these have been published within this year. Firstly, the blueprint for a modern digital government. So this is really the essential guide to how the government wants to deliver digital services. So this commits to 6 core reforms. It looks to join up public services through mandatory API publication, looks to harness AI for the public good by creating an AI adoption unit and responsible AI advisory panel. And it's looking to really strengthen digital and data infrastructure via the expanded gov.uk one login. The other two really core publications that I think are worthy of note, particularly the one that Sam mentioned earlier around the AI Opportunities Action Plan. So this really sets out how we will achieve, this sets out 50 actions to build an AI sector that looks to scale and win globally. So its aim is to ensure that global AI companies want to call the UK home and looks to boost the responsible adoption of AI across all parts of the UK. But this is really about enabling the AI sector to grow within the country. So this is talking about things like data centers, how we build them, how we get them the energy that we need, and looks at kind of really expanding things like our compute capacity. It also lays out the kind of scan, pilot, scale approach that you might have heard about across government. So this is how we look at for new AI tools that might help us within government. So we look at scanning across the horizon at what might be possible. We then pilot it to see if we get the results that we need, and then we look to scale it across government. And then lastly is the AI playbook for the UK government. This offers guidance on implementing AI effectively, including best practices and relevant case studies to support government initiatives. I would really recommend, if you are looking at implementing or you want to find out a bit more about AI and how it's used, having a look through the AI playbook for UK government. It's quite in depth, but it really does have a guide throughout the different stages of how we responsibly adopt AI. And then together, this shows the kind of direction that UK government is going in and some of the compelling reasons that we should be adopting AI in transport. So namely, the productivity and economic growth angle, being able to deliver better services for the public, and also enabling us to have a more integrated transport network. So what is AI? I think this is a question we get asked quite a lot. And quite simply, AI refers to machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. So this is quite a broad umbrella. It includes a lot of different kind of sub-technologies, and I think that's where some of the confusion often lies. And one of the dominant forms of AI is machine learning, which I'm sure many of you will have heard of. One of the nice ways to think about AI is to think about the categories that we can divide it into. So there are three broad flavors of AI. So this is generative AI, predictive AI, and perceptive AI. So firstly, generative AI, which is sort of the newest form of AI, is AI that creates brand new content. So these are things like text, images, music, or video. It'll learn the structure and the style of examples it's seen before, and then you will have no doubt seen things like ChatGPT, which can then, from a prompt, be able to generate some new content or information. Predictive AI is a slightly, generally uses a slightly older form of AI. It uses historical data in order to forecast what will happen next or recommend the best choices. So you'll see this in things like your Spotify app, or every time you Google search, it'll recommend you different searches based on previous historical data and what you input. You'll also see it in things like Google Maps in order to decide what route you should take and also how long that might take. The last one is perceptive AI. So this is AI that sees, hears, or reads the world by interpreting images, audio, or language inputs, much like how we sense and see the world. So these are things like the face unlock on your smartphone, or voice assistants understanding your commands, or cameras auto-tagging photos. And hopefully these distinctions help us to understand some of AI's strengths and where it's already transforming jobs and services. And we can think of it as a bit of an arc of sense, think, create. That's essentially what the AIs are doing. And when we start to put them together, we can get really powerful applications. So it works much how we do in terms of sensing the world around us, thinking about what our next actions might be, and then creating something new. So why is everyone so interested in AI at the moment? Why are you seeing it on the news all the time? And there are really three fundamental building blocks of AI. And that is data, as Sam spoke about earlier, in order to both provide the historical context and the examples for the AI, but also in order to drive it in terms of real-time usage. Secondly is the algorithms. So these are essentially the rules that the AI uses in order to process that data. And then lastly is the computing power. So this is essentially the brain and how many operations it can do per second. And if we look over the last sort of 20 years, and particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen massive increases in all three of these areas. So a massive increase in the amount of data available, a big increase in the complexity and the types of algorithms that we have available, including the invention of the transformer algorithm in 2017, which has really driven this escalation in the kind of large language models in ChatGPT and those sorts of applications over the last few years. And then lastly, computing power has really increased over the last 20 years. And this has meant that we've had a really large increase in capability of these AI systems. So if you look at the graph here, this is showing, quite difficult to read, but basically different tasks that humans might do, whether it's kind of reasoning or mathematics or language processing, and then comparing it against AIs. And the main thing to note here is the general trend is upwards. Upwards, and zero is human capability. So in certain areas, machines are starting to get better than humans at doing specific tasks. They're not yet general yet. They are very good at narrow tasks, but not necessarily general tasks. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the barriers. Why is AI not just everywhere now? What are some of the difficulties that we have in terms of adopting AI, specifically in the transport sector? So this is some research that we did with TRL. So this is a report that is actually now available. And I think if you go to the stand later on, you can go and pick up this report. And the barriers identified in this report stem from some evidence-based research and insights gathered from a series of industry stakeholder workshops that engaged over 60 professionals across the transport and AI ecosystem. So there are 8 key barriers that were identified. There are root causes and then some potential opportunities available to overcome them. We really want this to try and galvanize the sector around both these barriers and some of the opportunities. So I won't go through all of them, but I'll just highlight a few kind of key ones that I'll talk about. So firstly, data discovery and quality. So as we heard from Sam, AI in transport faces real challenges with fragmented data, making it difficult to identify and access the data sets needed in order to help with these technologies. The second barrier that I'm going to kind of focus on is skills and workforce readiness. So currently the UK workforce currently lacks the necessary skills to effectively use, manage and maintain AI technologies. And the findings around this are that there are significant skill gaps within the workforce, particularly in the digital literacy, data analysis and AI specific competencies, which are really limiting potential benefits. And then lastly, I think a really interesting one is around public trust and social acceptance. Because if we don't have the social acceptance from the public of these technologies, then we won't get the adoption rates that we need. So there's widespread skepticism about AI reliability, safety and fairness, and that's really impacting public trust and acceptability. So what are some of the opportunities around these? So there are kind of 5 key opportunities to transform transport, and I'm just going to focus on a couple related to the first ones, which is the enhancing technical skills and expertise. So bridging that skills gap by collaboration with industry, academia, and training providers to share data analysis skills, AI literacy, and ethical AI considerations, and also building that public confidence in AI adoption. And I think one of the interesting takeaways that I want you to have from this is that this will require a lot of cultural change. And it's often the non-technical barriers to adoption which are the most significant. So to get the greatest benefit, we require changing processes, not just implementing technology to slightly speed up the existing processes that we already have. So this is going to require whole organizational change and change programs, not just giving organizations technical AI tools and expecting them to be able to use them effectively. So what have we done so far within DFT? And the answer is quite a lot. We've made some real significant strides in our AI adoption, and we now really want to extend this to the wider transport ecosystem. We've set up our governance structures, we've established an AI project oversight group, and rolled out AI commercial guidance across DFT. We've done a significant amount of research on that area of public acceptance, and we've published deliberative research and collaborated with the Alan Turing Institute and ONS on a lot of that. And really the headline finding is that public opinion on AI is very complex, with people being ready to see the societal benefits more than the individual benefits. And their perception of its acceptability depends on the nature of task it's used for. So it's really important to be very specific about which use cases you use AI for, due to the public acceptability of that. We've also found, as with other innovations like electric vehicles, public attitudes change substantially over time due to media exposure and people's changing experiences. And I think we'll see that again with AI as it comes through in the media. We've also hosted some AI hack events and a data science conference, as well as a bit of a Dragon's Den with some SMEs. And one of the key things that I wanted to highlight for the TTF audience is really around the training. So we've developed and launched some training, a foundation course within DFT, and we now want to roll this out a bit wider. So we're offering this up to LCRIG, who will share this with kind of local authorities, And this is really kind of two different learning products. So we have a 90 minutes AI Essentials e-learning course that's now available for all of the staff within DFT, plus a team discussion pack. And then we have a half-day AI Transform Leadership Lab course for team leads. So we're opening up some of those courses in order to offer them to the wider transport ecosystem. The courses kind of cover understanding AI, responsible uses of AI, applying AI in transport, and exploring use of AI within the wider transport sector. We've also deployed a few technical use cases for various applications, such as image recognition for counter fraud, automated consultation analysis, and correspondence drafting. But we're really seeing really large opportunities in the operations, maintenance, and renewal space, in transport infrastructure, and in network optimization. And those are some of the key areas where we think we can find efficiencies and real cost savings for the taxpayer and the public. The last thing that I also wanted to flag was the LCRIG AI task group. So LCRIG are starting a 2-year cycle of activity on AI. And the idea of this is to get some practical guidance out there, kind of get behind the fluff of the words and look at a few different areas. So road conditioning, scheduling, life cycle, and safety inspection, legal implication. And the first webinar is taking place on the 12th of May. So just wanted to flag that for anyone who is interested. And to say that the TRL report is available if you want to go speak to them later. And I'm around today and happy to talk in more detail for anything in particular. Thank you very much.